If I have a penny for every thick snake lady Hypergriff has added to Arknights, I'd have 2 or 3 if you include whole Heak. I'm not complaining, it's just an observation. The latest addition to the thick snake women collection is Wulfenite, who is an expert on rocks and has an unhealthy obsession on rocks. Her codename, Wulfenite, is a real mineral that she has tons of knowledge about. Did you know that she is also a content creator with extreme gaps between uploads, according to her files? Yeah, I struggle with that too. Anyway, Wulfenite has some unique quirks in her kit that makes her stand out from the other trapmasters in this game, aside from being the thickest one in her archetype. Let's take a look if she is worth investing your resources and hardly earned LMD. Wulfenite is a 5-star trapmaster. As the name suggests, trapmasters can deploy traps on an unoccupied tile anywhere on the stage. In other words, unlike summons and operators, the tile must be clear of enemies and other obstacles in order to deploy the traps. The traps automatically trigger when an enemy enters its range. But unlike other trapmasters, Wulfenite's traps have a manual trigger, giving you a higher degree of explosion control. We'll take a look at this more in the talent section. In terms of stats, Wulfenite has a similar attack, defense, and HP to most marksman snipers. Their range is the same, even their DP costs are pretty close. The one area trapmasters have an advantage of is their shorter attack interval, and that's pretty much it. You can say that trapmasters are the distant sibling of marksman snipers, with the additional ability to terrorize anyone who thinks that they are too good for the high ground. Wulfenite's talent, Explorer's Stash, gives her 3 mines and she can place up to 4 mines at maximum at Elite 2. As mentioned before, Wulfenite's traps have manual triggers, but there is an arming period of 10 seconds before it's ready for detonation. So you have to plan ahead and anticipate the enemy's direction. Therefore, her traps can't really be used for emergency deployments. Having manual triggers for your traps is really useful in some cases. It prevents them from activating prematurely, and you can decide which enemy will get their face blown up. And also, this provides an extra protection so that you don't burn through your traps too fast. Unfortunately though, the traps have a really small range to provide a strong synergy. I'm not saying that there is no synergy, I'm just saying that it could be better if the traps have a slightly bigger range. Wulfenite also has one of the lowest trap counts in the Trapmaster archetype. She can only carry half the amount of traps than Robin and Frost. We also see this happen with Ella. Trapmaster skills have an active and passive effect. Passive effects are effects that triggered when the traps go off, while the active effects are usually giving your operators an extra trap when the SP bar is full or any sort of buff on the operator itself. With that in mind, Wulfenite's Skill 1, for Scaring Beasts, deals massive AoE physical damage and stuns enemies for 3 seconds. The physical damage is ideal against squishy enemies. It could help reduce some pressure from your lane holders by stalling and weakening them. However, the damage falls off really quickly, especially against heavy defenders or enemies with B rank defense. The main selling point of S1 is definitely not damage. Skill 1's main strength is the crowd control ability that you can remotely activate on demand and really cheap to deploy. The stun is a great utility to have when you're up against enemies like Sarkha's Lancers, which stops their momentum and prevents them from speeding. It's also great against Wraiths and their many cousins, as well as other fast-moving, unblockable enemies. Talking to you, you stupid rabbit from Elegies after Ashes. Man, if only Wulfenite released before CC3 Extinguished Sins, she would be really useful against the Sarkha's Altar Keeper who likes to steal your Storm Attractor 5000. With some strategic placement, you can stun lock enemies for up to 12 seconds, which is one of the longest accumulated stun duration by an operator thus far, at least what I know of. How does this skill compare to other stun options? First of all, there are so many ways of stunning enemies in Arknights, and they are beyond the scope of this video. What I found is that other operators with stun capabilities have larger AoE, but a longer cooldown. Wulfenite has the advantage of deploying her traps a lot faster than most operators' skill cooldowns. Combining the arming time and the cooldown between traps, that adds up to 13 seconds. I couldn't find any operators that have a cooldown lower than this. Blitz skill 1 and Clifford skill 2 gets very close at Mastery 3. On the other hand, Wulfenite's active skill has a significantly longer cooldown. 23 seconds at level 7 and 20 seconds at Mastery 3. Yes, her trap count is pretty low, but as long as you place the traps infrequently, this cooldown presents a little to no problem. If you are really great at playing Trapknights, skill 1 can be used to bunch up enemies and finish them off with a large AoE attack. Before we move on to the second skill, I have one favor to ask of you. If you enjoyed the video so far, don't forget to hit the like button. YouTube has not been kind so far, and a lot of my friends have been experiencing a drop in views after the release of YouTube's questionable AI age verification thingy. So yeah, if you want to show your support, don't forget to hit the like button, not just for me, but for every other YouTubers that you watch as well. Anyway, let's move on to the next skill. Skill 2 for Stubborn Rocks expands the attack range of the mines to a plus shape, and detonating one armed mine detonates the rest. Each mine deals 2 instances of physical damage and shreds the enemy defense for 5 seconds as the cherry on top. The defense debuff does not stack, which feels like a missed opportunity, but at least the physical damage does stack. It can be stacked up to 8 instances at once. Regardless of that, the defense debuff is still really useful, allowing Wulfenite to penetrate enemies with higher defense, including those in B ranks. In fact, Hypergriff is so confident with her damage output that one of the missions of her module is to defeat a heavy defender. Even at level 7, skill 2 can deal serious damage. About 1200 damage per explosion against these Dublin heavy defenders, or 2400 damage per mine. The defense debuff is somewhere around the mid-range relative to other operators with similar abilities. For example, Pozemka has the same amount of defense debuff provided by her second talent at pot 5. Of course, there are other operators with a greater defense debuff like Shamare, which can go as high as 50% for 15 seconds. Technically speaking, with this skill in mind, Wulfenite has a global range attack, with some limitations as some tells are undeployable. The extra bit of range from her mines is really useful in a blindness event, because you can reveal enemies without endangering your operators and without taking a deployment slot. I forgot to mention that the SP bar functions just like a normal SP bar, which means it can be influenced by SP-based skills. You can use SP battery operators like Tilopsis or Liskarm to get traps faster. For Mastery, I would prioritize skill 2 then skill 1. It deals more than twice the damage and the debuff is really appealing. At Mastery 3, the damage increases by 30% and reduces the SP cost by 2. Skill 1 Mastery 3 gives Wulfenite a longer stun duration, increases the damage to also 250%, and reduces her SP cost by 3. Her mastery gains are not that impressive, but if you enjoy niche and technical clears or just like to blow up enemies in general with tons of damage, investing in her mastery is definitely worth it. On the other hand, if you prefer to use her as a utility operator for crowd control, then definitely go for skill 1 for that extra duration of stun. Wulfenite released with her module, TRP Gamma. It updates her trait and gives her a 20% chance of deploying a trap that deals double the damage. For reference, every 10 traps you deploy, 2 of them will likely have the double damage bonus. You can tell which mine has this double damage bonus by the presence of a red light. The chance of getting it is on the low end. You might get lucky to get them in just a few traps, or you might only get them towards the end of a stage. I'm not a big fan of RNG, but the bonus damage is a welcomed upgrade. At level 3, the trap damage increases by 12% when there are 2 or more enemies in range. It does seem like this upgrade encourages more use of AoE damage, but the 12% damage increase is not that significant to justify a more technical approach to her trap usage. Wulfenite is fun to use. She brought a new mechanic to the trapmaster archetype, offering a decent crowd control utility and some explosive damage. Her playstyle definitely swings towards a niche or non-meta clears. There is so much you can do with her traps that I don't have the capacity to discuss in this video. I also want to add that Wulfenite feels like a prototype operator. I can imagine that sometime in the future, a 6-star trapmaster would adapt this unique manual triggered mechanic. Anyways, all that yapping aside, there is one question that I need an answer. Who has the thickest tail between Wulfenite, Tomimi, and Nexus? That's the real shit. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like it, don't forget to hit the like button, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye!